We land at the Brazilian Grand Prix this weekend for the last race of the triple header. With just 3 races remaining this season, but with regulations staying stable for 2024, teams have plans in place in terms of upgrades and testing. And with yet another sprint weekend on our hands, let's talk about what we can expect in terms of upgrades, especially from the likes of McLaren, Aston Martin, Ferrari, and Mercedes. Let's start this video with McLaren as usual. The Mexican Grand Prix was once again a mixed race for the Woking-based squad, with Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri reverse playing their roles. But Lando's pace after the restart proved what could have been for McLaren, and I believe if Lando had qualified properly, he would have been the one to challenge Max Verstappen. It would have been a very close fight between Hamilton and Norris for sure. Now we move on to Brazil, and first thoughts on how they would fare around the Brazil circuit. Well, this is a track where I believe McLaren, since its 2 big upgrade packages, has the capability to be best of the rest. A little bit adrift of Red Bull. If this was the original MCL 60, McLaren would struggle like hell for sure. So why is that actually? Well, the Brazil racetrack is more about slow speed cornering performance and about mechanical grip. The MCL 60 is good around this area. Some credit goes to the McLaren suspension system, which is the most similar one to Red Bull within the current grid of cars. Due to that characteristic, McLaren are able to brake late and accelerate early, similar to Red Bull, thus giving a pace advantage. Mercedes and Ferrari are the only team who have been able to make progress through upgrades to close that gap to McLaren and Red Bull in that aspect. So McLaren should be pretty good on Sector 1 and Sector 2 of the lap. Sector 3 would be tricky for the team to handle, with the McLaren car being a bit draggy, not a draggy as in Mexico, but will be a bit draggy. Overall, McLaren are poised to enjoy a good weekend at Brazil, and the team has no upgrades planned for Brazil and only will be carrying out tests to develop their 2024 car. Next, let's focus on Aston Martin, a team which actually has upgrades planned for the Brazilian race weekend. Now I know we have talked about Aston Martin upgrades for every race weekend, but that is kind of the plan the team has in place, so we gotta talk right. Personally, I would like to call them downgrades, because I actually see no improvement in performance. Maybe they are playing for 2024, I'm not sure. But anyway, these I expect are the postponed upgrades from the Mexico race weekend, and I don't know why Aston Martin have the liking of introducing upgrades on sprint weekends. The Brazil upgrades is expected to be a complete reversal of what they currently have. Aston Martin have been trying different spec of parts, with slight modifications, but are not seeing any uplift in performance. The AMR 23 is failing in a lot of ways, not able to stay up to the hype it made during the season's start. Would either Alonso or Stroll have scored points at Mexico? I highly doubt it. The team has done what McLaren have done this season, but the direction has been the opposite. While McLaren moved forwards with upgrades, Aston Martin moved backwards with its downgrades. That mean the Silverstone team will tumble in 2024? Not exactly. They could again find a good winter development time and come up with a racy car. But not having some good races towards the end of the season, add not having good developments, will actually make the team lose momentum going into the winter break development. That could be an X factor behind a low-key performance from Aston Martin. They, just like the others, have been experimenting a lot, a little too much from my point of view. But they say they are seeing lots of gains in the wind tunnel, especially around the side pods. Aston Martin, with every upgrade, just seem to have gone away from their initial successful side pods design. And we, up until now, have not seen a solid underfloor upgrade from the team. It always has made changes to the floor edges, but the actual underfloor has pretty much remained constant. So if there are upgrades, as Mike Crack has suggested, it should and would be around the car's underfloor. About the team's prospects around Brazil, well, honest review, they won't be doing any good than Mexico here. But if they can make improvements, that will be a huge confidence boost for the drivers and the entire team. Next up on the list is Ferrari. Ferrari is now becoming a tricky team to put predictions on, as we predicted them to have a neutral weekend at Mexico, but actually they were able to get a P3, P4 finish. In terms of upgrades, Ferrari have none for the Brazil race weekend. The last upgrade Ferrari brought was a floor upgrade back at Suzuka, and since then, Ferrari have been experimenting to find out the proper development directions for 2024. At Brazil, I expect Ferrari to run their car on a different floor ride height to see where their car stacks up and in terms of performance. Brazil has a track layout similar to most tracks within the Formula One race calendar, with medium speed corners. Medium speed corners are most common on many racetracks, so it is important for teams to hit the sweet spot in that area, especially for the Red Bull-style Ferrari coming out next season. This is not something that I just made up. Ferrari actually said this, meaning that the side pods are more likely going to be similar to what Red Bull has. I also believe Ferrari will be stressing their designing process on the undercut as well. If you take a look at what Ferrari have currently, they have no undercut of any sort due to how the side impact structure is placed. What about the S-duct? I think Ferrari will keep experimenting on those kinds of things for 2024, but they are for sure improving race after race. They were actually good in Mexico, at least on single lap pace. Cooling seemed to be an issue for Ferrari, but it is an improvement from 2022. Still, the SF23 is a rocket ship on the straights, and that is going to be crucial on the long straight on Brazil's Sector 3. They might struggle around Sector 1 and Amp 2 with the corner profiles on those sectors, but Sector 3 will be their strong point. Overall, it again might be a decent weekend, but Ferrari predictions are hard to make time and time again, so let's see where they actually stack up. Next, let's talk about Mercedes. First, let's talk about the W14. The floor upgrade is working for sure. After Hamilton's Austin disqualification, many had doubts on the Mercedes floor upgrade, but Hamilton's pace around Mexico seems to clear all those doubts. There is a rumor still going around regarding how much wear Hamilton's W14's plank had. But regardless of how much wear was present, running low on bumpy tracks might ring in performance. But running too low will actually be a negative for the car rather than positives. The actual Mercedes car, I would say, is up there for sure with Ferrari, McLaren, and Red Bull next season. Since introducing that new floor back at Austin, it has been experimenting ground for the silver arrows. They are in between the search on the perfect ride height for their 2024 car around a wide range of tracks. Austin provided data for a bumpy race circuit, while Mexico and next Brazil will provide details on ride heights for much more conventional circuits. Even after the upgrades, it still seems like the rear of the W14 is stepping out, but the confidence boosts the upgrade has provided Lewis with is apparent with how he has been able to thrash George Russell with amazing pace. In terms of upgrades, Mercedes has no upgrades planned for Mercedes after the floor upgrade at Austin. In terms of Silver Arrows prospects for the Brazil Grand Prix, I expect Mercedes to be Red Bull's closest challengers. Last season, the W13 was able to provide Mercedes with a race win, so I expect Mercedes to deliver the same result this weekend. Will they be faster than Red Bull? I doubt that. But this is the only track where I believe Mercedes has the chance of winning a race. If not here, they actually won't have any other chance of a race win at Vegas or Abu Dhabi. Before ending this video, just wanted to touch on a common upgrade all teams will be bringing to Brazil, and that will be cooling modifications. Nothing drastic like Mexico will be brought, but still, teams will have a certain amount of cooling to accommodate the change in altitude. My prediction, the strongest team will be Red Bull, followed by closely matched Mercedes and McLaren, followed by Ferrari, and the rest of the grid. With the race weekend coming ever so close, and with Brazil hosting another sprint weekend, what are your expectations for the Brazilian Grand Prix? Which team with the potential upgrades do you think will be the closest to the Red Bulls at Brazil? Very much into your thoughts and perspectives in the comments section down below. And on your way down, don't forget to subscribe to the channel to get notified of our future uploads to keep yourselves up to date about the 2023 Formula One season.